Coming up, how God helped one man on his road to addiction recovery, and a woman's faith crumbles before a divine series of signs rebuilds her trust in God.
Well, welcome to 700 Club Canada. We are having an amazing week this week, Partnered for Purpose.
Yes.
It's exciting to see more people partnering with the ministry, Bill.
Absolutely. And, you know, one of the things I think about with generosity is often people think of sacrifice, and there's a component of that. So my question to you is, what is the greatest sacrifice you've ever made, and was it worth it?
Greatest sacrifice, having children.
Yeah, and I know you're going to say it was worth it. For the grandchildren.
For the grandchildren. Right, what about you?
Yeah, you know, I think there's been a couple times when God's asked me to really believe something big, even beyond what I in the natural could see. And it's honestly, those have been the best seasons of my life. He's provided in powerful ways. And so, yeah, generosity, it's not a sacrifice, it is a blessing.
It is a blessing. And my kids are a blessing.
They are, and your grandkids are a special blessing.
That's right. Well, up first, Pam explains that God's presence never wavered, even in the depths of grief. Watch this.
When Brian and I first got married, we were quite young. And then when we did, have children, it was great timing for us because my job really had me working long hours and not home as much as Brian was able to be. And so he was really especially as the kids started to get a little bit older, he was really the primary parent as far as the time with the kids.
Pam's normal and happy life was about to change.
Brian had worked a 24-hour shift in his job as a firefighter, and he was coming home, and he had taken his motorcycle into work that day. That night, we were all headed off to the cottage at different times. Brian had called me in the morning just before I had left to head downtown, and he had left from the fire hall to look at a kayak for me. He said, I'm gonna stop by there, and then, I'll see you tonight kind of thing. And I said, okay, I'll see you later. And he's like, I'll see you later.
That was the last time Pam would ever talk to Brian. While at work, Pam received a visit from the police.
I just looked at the police officer, and now I just said, is it Brian? And he said, yes. And what had transpired in the actual accident was that Brian had been driving his motorcycle southbound, and a woman just crossed in the path and hit him. And amazingly, he only broke his ankle, but severed one of the main arteries in his leg with the impact. There was an off-duty firefighter who had seen the accident happen, and he went over to Brian, so I'm told by him, and Brian, I guess, said something like, man, my leg really hurts. And the guy said to him, it's all right, buddy, we're gonna take care of you. And that was the end for Brian. When I was a mess, just a mess. We got about halfway home, and the fire chief just turned to me and he said, Pam, I just need to ask you to think for a moment, and when we get home, you're gonna have to talk to Graydon and Jacqueline. We come to the door, and Jacqueline opens it, and we just went and sat on the green chair there. I just said, can you guys sit with me? And that, I can guarantee, has been the worst moment of my life, telling them about their dad. And definitely not just that moment, probably an overriding feeling that I had for a long time was, why didn't you take me? Because he's the far better parent, the far better Christian, the far better person. You should have taken me and left him with Graydon and Jacqueline. So definitely that day, and for a long time, it was still the lack of belief that this really happened.
Pam was entering another season of loss when both her father and then her mother, diagnosed with dementia, eventually also passed away.
I don't know that I would call it so much angry at God as this is like horrible, and I guess I deserve this. And so people would say to me after my dad died, and then my mom gets dementia, and then ultimately she died, they're like, who has that happen to them? I'm like, I have no idea. I guess me. Like, I'm not, it's almost too much to bear. I think before Brian died, I really felt I had life under control, things were good. I wasn't being a great Christian, but things were good. And I can have a control of my life. And then I had no control of my life. And I feel like God was saying, you want to see who has control? I'm going to actually show you who has control, because it isn't you, actually. And that's where, at one point, I yelled out to God that if you take Graydon and Jacqueline from me, which would be the next on the list, that I can't follow you anymore, because you've hurt me beyond what I can do.
While Pam struggled with her anger, God was revealing his love to her.
He has a purpose, and that he will use all circumstances, even the most tragic and horrible and sad. He's going to use this into something great. And I would, again, go back a couple years before, people could tell me that. I didn't want to hear it. It obviously was God's timing for my heart maybe to be open to hearing what he had to say to me, and in different ways that I probably wouldn't have paid attention to before, in a painting and in a book and text from somebody. Those were ways that wouldn't necessarily have caught my attention previously. And he used those to just cause me to go, okay, I think I'm in a different place.
Today, Pam is married to Kevin. She has helped him grow stronger in his own faith in God.
The fact that God, through all of my turning from him, everything, that he would allow me to be somebody in Kevin's life to help him, in his path with Jesus, is just, again, it's just crazy that God would use me after I felt like I was not interested in anything. And so I don't know. I have no control over tomorrow. I know that, but I've seen how God has taken what seemed, and definitely was, horrible, and taken those pieces and patterned out something that looks totally different. It's unbelievable. And no matter what has come our way, my kids losing their dad, me losing my parents, all of those pieces, no matter what tragedy we have, that he knows what he's doing.
Well, that is my dear friend, Pam, and her husband, Brian. We served with them for many years in ministry, and it was a profound loss in our community when Brian died. But here is just another layer of their story. Just recently, I was with Pam, and just how God has woven together good out of difficult. She now leads the Grief Share ministry at our church. And she's like, Lori, can you imagine if you had asked me before, Brian, that I would be leading, this kind of ministry? Right. She said, there's no way. And here's how God is so powerfully using her.
Yeah, helping others through grief. Yeah. But what I love about her story too is how authentic she was. I think sometimes as followers of Christ, we are afraid of maybe some of the darker thoughts or being angry at God, and yet that's all part of the grieving process. But again, I think I always remind myself, if you didn't have God, then what are you left with? The only alternative is just pure despair. Yeah. But what I love about God is he descends into the pit of despair with us to pull us out. And that's the hope that we have. Yeah, any thoughts or reflections as you saw that?
Well, just God had a purpose, and he used Pam as to really minister to people in long-term with the grief, and she's become now to be a soul helper in when people are going through their grief.
And that's right. Sometimes we can't express what we haven't experienced, but her experience allows her to walk alongside others who are having the same experience.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's amazing how God uses people who have gone through stuff to really minister to other people. We see it all the time on the prayer line. And
it's powerful.
God uses our sorrow and our troubles to really bring help and joy to other people.
That's true.
Yeah, it's true. I think the more trouble I have had in my own life, it's grown empathy in my heart. It's enabled me to connect with people in a more authentic way. God does change you in such a good way. And he doesn't waste anything. Doesn't waste anything. And we just welcome your partnership as we continue to encourage people across Canada with the good news of Jesus, because He is the hope that we have. And we invite you to be part of a partnership in our ministry here. You can give us a call at 1-855-759-0700 and become a monthly partner. And we have a thank you gift for you. Actually, the 10 Laws of Success has a daily workbook. It's a great resource. Our Frontlines newsletter will also be a part of ministering to you regularly. And as a bonus, here it is, the Lord is my shepherd. So why don't you give us a call and become a partner with us?
Everything was provided for me. I didn't hurt for nothing. We had good Christmases. You know, I had a little motorcycle. We had horses. And my father used to grow marijuana behind our barn. He started taking that on a daily basis. I was like 14, 15 years old. After my brother died, my family kind of fell apart. Love my brother, man. Like, it's been a long time. I still have trouble with it today. I got arrested again by the RCMP. 5 counts of trafficking, and I was sent to federal penitentiary. Went out to Vancouver, did the geographical change, thinking I'm going to make everything better. And I found heroin. Well, this is my new love of my life. I love this drug. It was great. You know, it numbed the senses. I didn't have to deal with any of life's issues. I didn't have to deal with anything. I met this girl out there through, ironically enough, through a detox place. She was a volunteer, and I married her the next day. I knew her for a month. We were married June 21st, 95. We were separated September the same year. So I came back to Ontario, turned myself in for some cocaine charges. I met another girl. She was working the streets. I started selling marijuana right out of the center. I got arrested again, and it turned out she was pregnant. It was my baby. I want to make sure she's set up. So I went in a cab, her in the back seat pregnant. I said, just wait here. I went through a pharmacy, out the front door, into the bank, robbed the bank, out through the pharmacy, you can jump in the cab, and okay, drive her downtown. And I've never told my son today that he was there and robbed this bank, but it was kind of crazy. And then I got arrested a month later. And she had the baby 7 weeks premature. And by the grace of God, my boy is so healthy, like he's perfect. My father was, he was a sinner. He didn't have Jesus in his life, and I guess he fell in his kitchen drunk, which he did a lot. But this time, I guess he laid there for a couple of days before anybody found him. And anyway, he died, and I put in for an escorted pass. And funeral home had to be closed. Nobody else could be there for support. And so it was me, my dad, 3 jail guards, wearing orange, shackled, and handcuffed. And it was great. I got to see him, but I couldn't go to the funeral, nothing, and that killed me. And, after that, I said, if this can't happen again, I can't do that. I can't be in jail when a loved one passes. I got to do something about it. But I didn't do much about it. I just talked about it. Like, I thought, this is all I'll ever do. I've only known one way my whole life, and that's crime. 90 different criminal convictions, So, and 30 different jails, 32 different jails. My sister told me about Teen Challenge. So I said I'd give it a shot. Here it was like crazy. I had no desire to use drugs. It was just lifted. It was amazing. On the 21st, we had a, who wants to come to Christ today? Raise your hand. So I did that, and it was really emotional, man. Tears just started flowing, and I love God for what He's doing in my life today. He's given me purpose. He's given me a chance. I'm gonna be a taxpayer. I've taken so much away, and now I'm gonna give back. I'm gonna pay a tax. That's awesome.
Michael Holmes' dream was to bring home a six-figure income, but in 2014, after losing his job, he was hoping for anything. Unemployed and in debt, Michael didn't know how he was going to support his family.
The rent is due. The landlord needs the rent. He doesn't want to hear that you lost your job. It's kids who are looking up to you. So in my mind, frustration, aggravation, depression, all those different, and then of course the feeling of failure.
Michael filed for unemployment. Though he was a Christian and volunteered at his church, he wondered why God was putting him through this.
So here I am, completely like just broken, nowhere to go, nowhere to turn, no money. And I'm starting like to really ask God, like shouting at God, angry at God, like a little 5-year-old spoiled kid. Come on, God, what's going on? As opposed to being more introspective and just really looking, maybe there's something I'm doing wrong.
Michael decided to search the Bible for answers, which he says he found in Malachi chapter 3.
He talks about, you have robbed me of the tithes and offerings. Prove me now, the King James says, prove me now herewith, saith the Lord of hosts, if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there should not be room enough to receive. Let me get this straight, me talking to God. I don't have any money. We have debts. The landlord wants to kick me out, and you want me to give money away. And I look in Malachi chapter 3 in the New Living Translation, it says, try it, put me to the test.
Michael tithed from his unemployment check. After a few weeks, he found a new sales job working as a renovation consultant. The money started coming in slowly, but Michael was growing impatient.
But I'm like, all right, unemployment is almost about to run out. You said that you would open the windows of heaven and pour me out a blessing, that there's not room enough to receive it. I don't see any windows opening. And it got to the point where I was like, all right, I quit. I'm not doing this. I know I said I'm gonna do it, and I quit.
Michael went back to the Bible. He came across Acts chapter 5.
And I believe it was Peter speaking to Ananias and Sapphira, and he said, you have withheld your money in violation of your promise. The whole day just stopped. I felt embarrassed. I felt ashamed. I felt that I said I wasn't going to do it again, and here I am doing it again.
Michael decided to remain consistent with his tithing, and soon he started to see results. While the first year on the job he brought in less than $30,000, he had more than doubled that the next year.
I think that if you can trust God with salvation and taking you to heaven and healing you, I think you should be able to trust him with your money.
Within 5 years of tithing, Michael crossed the six-figure mark he had always dreamed about. Today, Michael is quick to tell people about the benefits of giving. In fact, he started a blog called tithehacker.org. He says without a doubt that God is faithful to those that trust him.
There's so much that God wants to give every single one of his children. Doesn't matter, male, female, black, white, denomination, but at the end of the day, there is a level of obedience that is necessary for him to do that. You know, so I think that if we would take him at his word, you know, and be faithful to what he's saying, he'll be faithful in doing what he promised.
In Matthew 12, verse 35, we read, a good man brings good things out of the good stored up in him, and an evil man brings evil things out of the evil stored up in him. Here's what I'm learning, and we've talked about this whole week. Christian generosity is an attitude of the heart, a way of living that flows out of thankfulness to God for his incredible mercy and grace. And how we give back is a form of worship, actually, to God, and is less about money than it is about the posture we are taking before God, from whom all things come. See, sharing with others is a gift that allows God to use our resources, actually they're his, and our time to do his work on earth. Contributing your time and your funds to a ministry you believe in is equivalent to giving to God, because everything we have flows from him. It is God's gift that allows us to give to others. Here's the key. Generosity doesn't create a deficit. I hear that all the time. Oh, I'm going to lose something. No. It actually instead generates even more resources. It's similar to love. Love is an endless resource. The more you love, the more you experience love, and the more love you have to give. It's the same with giving. And so, Today is the last opportunity for you to partner with us, and we're encouraging your generosity to this vision and mission that we have of spreading the good news across this amazing nation. So if you call us today at 1-855-759-0700, we have some amazing resources for you. We have the 10 Laws for Success, a great resource with a practical workbook, as well as this DVD, The Lord is My Shepherd, and our monthly magazine that is what we want to encourage, equip, and inspire you with. So why not call us today and partner with us? Express your generosity in being a part of the kingdom and making a difference.
Viola Heggs is a successful licensed counselor. It's a long way from where she was in 1996, in prison, battling drug addiction, and expecting her second child.
I just felt like wasn't no hope for me, and that one day I was going to end up dying on those drugs.
Her prison sentence was short. However, it was long enough for her to know she never wanted to return. So she got clean and went straight to church.
I didn't want to take the chance of messing up my daughter's life. She was 6 months old when I got out. I just kept telling myself, I can't do this again. I just cannot do this to another child, because I wasn't there for my oldest daughter.
At first, Viola had a hard time trusting God would take care of her. Instead, she believed her drug conviction would keep her from being hired for a job that would provide for her 2 daughters.
Even though I was clean and sober, I still felt like trash.
That changed when she realized how much God loves her.
It was like I could feel his liquid love just pour through me, and I had never experienced that before. The more he showed me how good he was, the more I just wanted to experience that, and I also wanted to please him.
One of those ways was to tithe. Viola had learned about it in church.
I got to see God really prove himself to me. He said, prove him, test him, and he showed me that he really was with me, and that tithing is a principle of his that really works.
At first, Viola used a portion of her food stamps to buy groceries for others in need.
It was scary at times. But I knew really, too, I could fall back on my mother or father if I needed to, but I didn't want to use them. I wanted God to show me what he could do.
And he did. In 1996, Viola was offered and completed a free training program to become a CNA, a certified nursing assistant.
I was able to get the job. Not only the job, I got the certification, which everybody was saying they're not going to give you a certification, not with all those charges you have on your record.
In 3 years, Viola was off government assistance, working nights as a CNA, and supplementing her income by becoming a hairstylist. Still, Viola was able to care for her daughters and tithe.
God gives me the ability to wake up every morning to go to the job to make that money. And so I need to be sure that I honor him with it.
Then in 2012, as Viola started taking college courses online, she finally began to see that her past didn't define her.
I'm becoming more bolder and confident in who God really made me to be. I'm truly believing in myself.
After 7 years, she completed a master's degree and became a licensed counselor. Now Viola was working with people in recovery from drug addiction and doubling her income.
So he showed me that this is where I wanted you. This is your purpose and your destiny, and I feel fulfilled in it, and I love it.
Recently, Viola increased her giving again by becoming a CBN partner.
How they help the people in the military and just people in need. The stories, the testimonies of how the people would be healed and they sit and pray and stuff like that. All that I just love that. I can feel the sincerity, and I knew that that was a real ministry that was doing the work for God, and I just wanted to support that.
Today, Viola is still on track for more income growth.
It's amazing, and I never thought in a million years that it would be this way. I just didn't, but that's how it is when you serve God. I just see him as somebody I can trust and take all of my problems to. So I don't see why I can't share my money with him and trust him to, one thing I found out, you can't beat God-given. And he's proven that to me. So my desire is to help souls, and I think the more you have a desire to help others, the more God will do for you, and the more he expands you because of that desire, not for selfish gain, but to be a blessing to other souls, because that's what it's about for me.
Get 10 Laws for Success from CBN, featuring Pat Robertson's signature book, plus a brand new study guide. 10 Laws for Success will give you the tools you need to live with godly purpose and power. Learn how to practice life-changing principles such as the laws of use, change, and responsibility. Put the laws of God's kingdom to work in your life. Get 10 Laws for Success today. Call or go online now.
Well, it's been an amazing week, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And wonderful to have some of our 700 Club Canada staff and prayer team with us. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you for all of those who've already called, you have said yes to partnering with us. Last chance.
This is it.
Actually, it's never last chance. But this week, we want to encourage you to respond. We are looking for more partnerships so that we can do a greater work in Canada. And just a reminder that we have some wonderful gifts for you, the 10 Laws of Success, as well as a special offering this week, The Lord is My Shepherd. So don't delay. Even right now, why don't you pick up the phone and call?
Well, and as we've been learning, generosity opens up God's heaven
That's
to
right.
you. And so, yeah, be generous. It will change your life. But we do have some praise reports, and we love hearing those. We love praying for you, but thank you when you let us know what happened as a result. So why don't we share some of those today?
Yes, well, Ruth wrote in to say, my husband has been on your prayer list for most of this year, and at this recent doctor's visit, he received a good report. Thank you for interceding.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
And Sandra wrote in and said, I've been praying for unity in my family for the past few years. Recently, her brother invited his sons, herself, and her sister to go out together, and they did. God is working and showing signs of answered prayer. Praise God.
I love that.
That is amazing.
I mean, stories of families being healed.
Yes.
I'm sure you receive a lot of calls with family requests, right?
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's at the heart of so many of our prayer
100%.
requests. Yeah.
Well, our power verse today is found in Hebrews 13:16, where it says, "And do not forget to do good and to share with others."
For with such sacrifices, God is pleased.
Yeah, and so we've been learning all about generosity today. Thank you so much for being with us this week. Thank you
Our pleasure.
for praying faithfully for all of these years. And again, if you need prayer, never hesitate to reach out to us. Use that 1-800 number. We're here for you. And partner with us today. Let's make a difference together for the kingdom of God. Thank you so much for watching.
To contact us, visit 700club.ca.
On the next 700 Club Canada, see one man's escape from the occult as we take a significant look at the spiritual realm.